Hey everybody, my name is Evan and I like to draw, and I would like you to join me as we take a trip back to 2015 and make some crazy dinosaur hybrids. This time though, it's between a shark and a triceratops. And much like everything good in life, this picture starts off with a god-awful sketch of the triceratops shark. Sharceratops? Yeah, let's call it that. And then the background too. And then using that we can make the much better and crisper outline along the way. So the only thing left to do is just lower this layer's opacity to 28 so I can see translucent lines, and then I can use those to get the better outline. I can start off with the horns, which will, look like basic horns, which are pointy and kind of rounded out towards the bottom. And then inside of them I can give them little flecks of lines that'll just be more horn-like detail to give it that bone emphasis. And it's the exact same thing for the top two horns. Now, to connect the head, I can give the Sharceratops a bunch of weird little skin wrinkles on his forehead, giving it that, I don't know, mutant abomination look, I guess? And then after that, we can add in more of the Triceratops details around the frill, such as the random pointy bits. And then after that, we can go back to the shark head, which, looks like your standard shark. But I'll be sure to add emphasis on the parts that really matter, like the teeth and the dark, soulless circular eye. But as for the teeth, we'll give the Sharceratops kind of this weird, neutral, growl-like look, and then we'll just give it jagged little teeth all the way throughout. The nostril looks like a sideways 6, and then as I mentioned earlier in the eye, I can use a circle stencil just to give it that nice, crisp little round-out look. And after that, you can then see the full face of the Sharceratops looking absolutely horrific, and then we can go in towards the neck and add in the gills, cause, why not? And then I can go back up to the eye and add one little line under it to give it that unsettling look. Eee. And then using some magic we can just whip the frill into existence, and then I'll go back and add all of the little 3D details to it, like the little parts that kind of puff up in the back. And once the head's finished, we can add part of the leg to connect the rest of the body to, the legs. And then we can start by just regular leg details, but for the Sharceratops, I decided to give it little weird leg-like fins on the back. I guess it helps it swim or walk through the water, whatever you want this thing to do. But I'd say the only other interesting thing for the foot is to add in the kneecaps, and then I can also add in the individual toes and then the scoots along those that go upwards towards the leg. And then to give our Sharceratops extra chonkiness, I can be sure to rub in his belly, and then I can do the kneecap on the leg behind it, and then I can also add in more wrinkles and folds to make him look super thick. And then the only thing left to do for the front half of our Sharceratops is just draw on the rest of the chest, which is just pretty much a semicircle, connecting all the pieces together. As for the back, it starts off pretty thick and then angles out right to the tip of a shark tail, and I can just do that on both sides, being sure to add in that weird little extra fin bit that I don't know what it's called on the bottom. And then we can also add a line that will show the parts where the color changes later on. As for the fin, it'll be super big and kind of pointy for no reason other than the fact that it looks cool. And that same rule of cool applies to the fin, where it's just ridiculously pointy and over-exaggerated. And then the last thing left to do for the Sharceratops is just go around the whole thing, adding a bunch of little wrinkles and folds to give it more texture. And once that's finished, that is our scientific abomination fully outlined, and then we can move on to the background. Which, to start off, it'll just be a straight line of sand all the way throughout that I can then erase any of the overlapping layers behind the feet. I'll also add in a rock in the background just to give it more environmental detail, but I don't know, there's just a rock. And most of the detail from the background will be color, so that's pretty much it finished, and on to the rest of the drawing. Yeah, hey guys, Evan from the future here. Don't get too attached to the background, it doesn't turn out good. Anyway, that's the outline finished, and we can move on to the coloring. And for the coloring, pretty much the entire body of the Sharceratops will get this nice dark cobalt blue that matches the color of a great white shark, obviously, and I'll just go through and add that all around. And after sketching out where I want the white highlights to go on the belly of the shark, I can then go on with a thinner brush, and then I can rub the outline all around, giving it that sort of wiggle appearance to make it more naturally blend into the actual colors. And once that's all colored in, you can see I added little dots and flecks all around it, and I also put little highlights near the leg fins to give it just that extra little bit of detail. But the last thing to do for the base colors will be to give the horns and the feet this tan color all the way around. And once that's done, that's all of the base color finished, so I can go on and add the better detail to all of the parts. Starting with the horns, I can give them a dark color at the bottom, and I can just flick that in random places, and I can go up in a lighter gradient until I get to the top, which will be a much lighter brown tan that kind of emphasizes the whole, ooh, it's pointy bit. The eye will get a solid black with a little bit of lighter black, I guess, we could call it gray, flicked around the edges to give it some sort of detail. But, you know, shark eyes are black, so this is the best we're gonna get. The teeth will get a bit of a stained white that will also get some shading, but it's very hard to see, so you'll just have to believe me on that front. And then the toes get the same exact gradient as the horns. As for the main color of the Sharceratops, I'll start with a darker cobalt all the way around the little creases and folds, like above the gills and behind the head, and I'll do that all the way throughout the entire body. This acts as kind of like the first layer of shading, I like to call it, but it also adds the greater detail, but I'll also go back and add more shading throughout it, but yeah, I don't know, just the way I do it, but it looks cool in the end, so trust the process, guys, we're gonna get it. After the shadows are put in everywhere, I can then take a color that is very similar to the cobalt we started with, but ever so slightly darker, and flick it all around in random places. This will just give the picture that ever so slightness of more detail to break up the monotone colors. And then once that's done, we can take a third color, which is lighter than the darkest, but darker than the lightest color, and then we can flick that all around the darkest color to give it a nice gradient. Confusing, right? Yeah, it is. And once that's done, you can see as I flick it on and off, it does add a little bit. It's not very noticeable until you switch it out, but the last thing to do will be to add lighting to the rest of the drawing, which is the lightest cobalt we've seen so far, flicked in all the little corners and parts where the lighting should be, so I kind of get it from like the side down of the animal. And once that's finished, the only thing left to do is to do the exact same thing with the white underbelly of the shark, but I'll just use a little bit of magic to show you guys that, because it's the exact same process. Woo! Almost. And there we go, yeah. As you can see, I also added stripes to the Sharceratops just to give it that extra little bit of coolness. And then I had an idea. So, regular sharks, when they're swimming, have this water glow light effect on it, where it's all like, you know, the surface light going down, and it's all broken up because of the waves. So I said, you know, we're doing that with the Sharceratops too. And then using a little bit of magic once again, we'll whip in the lighting, which has got that weird little ripple effect on it all throughout. Heck yeah, it looks cool. And with all the colors, lighting, shadows, and shading done, the last thing to do is switch the outlines from a solid black to a color that more matches what they're on top of. So the cobalt will get a darker cobalt, which doesn't really help in that situation, it's a terrible example, but for the white we'll give it a gray outline instead of a solid black, so it looks more natural compared to the drawing. And once that's done all the way around, that is the Sharceratops finished, and we can move on to the background. And yeah, like I said earlier, there is no background. I'll explain the process because I do have little clips of footage of what I was trying to do. Basically, I just wanted to have the Sharceratops standing on sand, so I started off doing that by giving it a base layer with a textured brush, and then I went over it with another textured brush and smudged it down so it looked like regular colored sand. But none of this matters because the file gets corrupted anyway, and Fresco crashes, and I lose all the progress, so I'm just stuck with what I had before, and at that point I said, you know what, screw it, so yeah, we're just gonna cut right to the gallery because I'm sad. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed this pretty wacky drawing. I had a ton of fun doing it, and I am a bit bummed that the background file got corrupted, but nonetheless, the thing itself still looks pretty cool. And hey, if you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for sticking out till the end, guys. I'll see you later.